Today we are going to read from the 4th chapter called Embracing All of In Love at Ease, Everyday Spirituality with Pramukh Swami. Swamishri exemplified how we can embrace all regardless of caste, creed, ethnicity, boundary, and border. Maybe we can learn from that, myself especially included. Despite our conversation on the plane that afternoon, this is following 5 stories that were relayed about Swamishri's ability to embrace all. I did not fully understand his love and passion for the Adivasi community, which is a very underprivileged and underrepresented part of India, until after he passed away. I was in Sarangpur sitting with one of his personal attendants in the days following his passing away. It was therapeutic to sit in the presence of the tens of thousands who came for Swamishri's final darshan before the cremation ceremony. I sang in front of my guru's mortal body, chanted the Swami Narayan mantra, but mostly just observed the bhaktas, the devotees. Their faces and emotions told me so much. That day, an Adivasi poet and musician came for Swamishri's final darshan. I did not recognize him, but the sadhu pointed him out to me. I could see that the words of his early poetry on Pramukh Swami Maharaj were weighing heavy on his mind. Tears rolled down his face, and eventually those soft sobs turned into wailing. The sadhu grabbed my hand and whispered, "Do you know why people love Swamishri so much?" I was silent. It was because he put others before himself. He gave like no other. Let me tell you a story that very few know about Swamishri's resolve and desire to meet his bhaktas. We were in Bodeli in 2011 for the Mandir Murti Pratishta ceremony. Bodeli is surrounded by tribal villages. Such villages, the proceeds of this book goes towards, by the way. Swamishri had instructed Divya Swarup Das Swami to travel in those villages and help and instruct as many families as he could. It had become the sadhu's, the monk's life's aim. On the day of the Murti Pratishta, tens of thousands of people had gathered from neighboring villages for a glimpse of the Guru because of whom they had turned their lives around. Swamishri was preparing to come out for the sabha when the attendants and doctors realized that he was not himself. They checked his pulse and found that his heart was beating irregularly and he had a temperature. The doctors immediately advised him to cancel his plans and go to the sabha, the assembly. Swamishri ignored the advice until he realized that the attendant sadhus and doctors had already decided to cancel the plans. He was upset to have been left out of the decision. He turned to the attendants and said, "It is just a fever. I have been to their houses when I have been in worse physical condition. We are just going out to give them darshan and come back, give them presents. Do not cancel my plans. Tens of thousands are waiting outside. How disrespectful would it be if I did not come out for a few minutes?" The personal attendants, true to the role they were entrusted with, did not budge. Swamishri's initial requests turned into pleas. He was less worried about himself and more worried about all those waiting for him outside. "Nothing will happen to me. I want to get out there. They are waiting for me. I owe them this much. They have turned their lives around on my account. I know many of them personally. Let me go out there. I take on the responsibility for my health. If something happens to me, you can blame me." Swamishri was unsuccessful in convincing the attendants. The doctors and senior attendants left the room. They knew that their staying would only further frustrate Swamishri, and he was in no condition to leave his bed. He needed to rest. Swamishri tried to convince every sadhu that came into his room to take him to the sabha. The senior sadhu sent Divya Swarup Das Swami to reason with Swamishri. He could not stand the sight of Swamishri pleading him to go outside, and so he ran out of the room with tears in his eyes. Narayan Munidas Swami was sent in next. Swamishri cut him off. "Muni, don't you dare argue with me. You are supposed to be a Maun Muni, a silent sage." Narayan Munidas Swami, too, retreated. Everyone who tried to sway Swamishri failed. Brahma Viharidas Swami thought he should try. The other sadhus warned him that Swamishri was in no mood to reason. Swamishri saw him enter the room. He started to plead before the sadhu had even taken 4 steps into the room. The sadhu walked in with folded hands and said, "Swamishri, I will take you. I promise. But first we need you to rest a bit. We need to help your heart settle down and your temperature drop." Swamishri was talking about the bhaktas, the devotees, with a filial passion, comparable to that of a mother for her youngest child. "What is going to happen to me? Nothing. I want to see them. It will make me feel better. Please, just give me a few minutes with them. They have come from their villages, undertaking hardships. I owe them this much. I take on the responsibility of my health. Please take me for just a few..." Swamishri implored the sadhus well into the night. The Adivasi bhaktas were like Swamishri's youngest children. He wanted to be out there with them. The sadhus eventually persuaded Swamishri to rest for a bit, though Swamishri could not convince them to bring him out to meet the bhaktas, the devotees, that night. Everyone in that room realized what those bhaktas meant to Swamishri. Their guru was craving their darshan as much as they were craving his. I agree, Willie. At this point, it's better to let him go outside than to upset him more, right? I guess his health was seriously failing him, though. I was in tears at this point. Swamishri's former attendant sitting next to me grabbed my forearm and said, "See, now he has you crying too. They come and cry. We sit and observe. Others will remember until their last breath for this one reason." He put others in front of him, people he did not know, people that the world disregarded and disowned, people who society often did not even consider. People were all Swamishri's children. He saw God in all of them. He loved, respected, and gave to them until they were tired of taking. He heard them and saw them when no one else cared to do so. Years later, when traveling in Silvassa and in the regions around Himatnagar, I learned that that story in Bodeli was probably Swamishri's last such interaction, but the circumstances were a recurring pattern. Homie couldn't even get out of bed, right, Mio? It's very impressive, and he was still insisting. Swamishri always insisted on meeting his bhaktas in the tribal areas. I guess, although it's apples to oranges, you might consider this comparable to, First Nation territory. Here, where I live, there are various reservations, and a lot of people hold such, reservations towards such people. A lot of people, there's a kind of racism towards them. And oftentimes the reservations are not in good condition, and people's health are failing. There's lots of addiction going through. So this would be like someone absolutely doing everything they can to go out and see those who have come from the First Nations, even when no one else would. In 2005, Swamishri called up Dharma Vinaydas Swami and decided to visit Pochina. The town is about 100 kilometers from Himatnagar. Swamishri was 85 years old at the time, and Poshina did not have the facilities to accommodate his healthcare needs. Swamishri insisted, "Where do you stay when you go? I will stay there. I am sure it is good enough. I want to meet them. I want to speak to them. I want to eat with them." Dharma Vinaydas Swami tried to push back. "We can arrange for all of that here. I will make arrangements for them to come visit you here in Himatnagar." Swamishri was not convinced. I hear my cats meowing. "Not all of them will make it here. Besides, I want to go to their homes. I want to meet them in their town. It shows respect. I will stay the night at the local Jain rest house. Do not make special arrangements for me." Swamishri called Sri this is a tough name, Sri Rangdas Swami, and asked him what he would prepare for their meal. What do they like to eat when they celebrate a festival? Sri Rangdas Swami replied, "Well, if it is a festive occasion, they prefer shiro along with the usual menu, but they do not use ghee, they prefer oil." Swamishri surmised, "Oil is cheaper than ghee. I want to feed them shiro using the purest ghee," which is a kind of purified butter that you can find. "Make preparations. I will come to Poshina soon." Swamishri made the arduous journey to Poshina at his age. 10,000 Adivasi Bhaktas had gathered for a glimpse of the Guru, who had given their communities hope. Swamishri reformed generations-long injustices through his own travels and actions, as well as through the noteworthy efforts of BAPS and BAPS charities to create systems of healthcare, education, substance abuse and domestic violence support, women's health, vocational support, and spiritual and moral counseling in Adivasi neighborhoods around the state. He dedicated specific sadhus, monks, to travel in those villages for decades. They were instructed to learn and adopt the customs and traditions of the Adivasi communities, while instilling important morals and values integral to assimilating with neighboring communities. These efforts have been made appreciated by local governments, Adivasi leaders, and other social activists. Ganesh Bhai Raut is the Sarpanch, village head of Chinchpada, a small village in the Dang district of southeastern Gujarat. He speaks of his life before meeting Swamishri and engaging in the humanitarian activities and social support provided by the Guru and his sadhus over the years. "Before meeting Pramukh Swami Maharaj, I was an alcoholic. I would use my daily wages to drink alcohol. I'd never had any money left to bring home to feed my family and children. On most days, I would borrow against the next day's wages and drink myself to sleep. The drinking resulted in health issues and domestic violence in our community. Everything changed after I met Pramukh Swami. He was not patronizing. He treated me like an equal. I felt empowered to take control of my life. Eventually, I got my act together and helped 800 people to do the same in our village. I eventually became the Sarpanch of the village and was able to change my village one family and person at a time. When inspectors from Delhi, the Ministry of Tribal Affairs and Ministry of Rural Affairs came to observe our village, they were so surprised by the standard of living and faculties that they awarded the village with the Nirmal Grama Puraskar, the Immaculate Village Award. Swamishri's love and affection has helped transform dozens of villages in this and neighboring districts. Swamishri's desire to embrace all was at the core of these initiatives. And let's pause our reading of In Love at Ease there for now.